Hi, it's Natasha.
And Casey Nurse.
And we are the co-hosts of
WokeNFree.
Thank you for tuning in to our 25th episode of WokeNFree. If you've been tuning in every week for WokeNFree Wednesdays, you know that WokeNFree is all about being real and honest with each other and you. We talk about everything and anything that's important to us, to you, and the world, and nothing is off the table. In this episode, we're going to be talking all about people and financial literacy and financial education. But before we dive deep into this subject, we have a couple of ground rules to cover. First, have you subscribed to WokeNFree on iTunes, TuneIn, Stitcher, Google Play, YouTube, SoundCloud, and iHeartRadio? If not, please do so immediately. We greatly appreciate the love. Secondly, have you shared an episode of WokeNFree lately? You can definitely feel free to share this episode or some of our previous ones. Sharing is caring, guys. Don't forget. And thirdly, talk to us on social media. You can easily find us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at WokeNFree.
Each week, we like to share a little bit about us before we dive into the topic for the episode. Last week, we shared our perfect V-Day gift. This week, we're sharing, if you had to sell everything in your possession, what would be the one thing you would keep?
I'm deeply offended by this question because
There's no offense at all.
I love my things, and I know that's a sin, but, you develop relationships, like I'm big on reading, and so the idea of not having every book in my possession is deeply troubling, but I guess if I had to give away or sell everything and could only keep one thing, I would probably, that's even unfair too, because I would want to say my laptop and I guess my laptop charger, because without the laptop charger, it's going to die. But,
well, yeah, that's included, I guess.
Okay, so then
You're not going to sell a charger on its own, so that comes with the laptop. Yeah.
Okay, so it would be my laptop and laptop charger, because it has my files, it has my thoughts, it's essentially the electronic version of Tasha, which is kind of scary. But how about you?
I thought about mine, and I think mine would be my phone, like probably a lot of people, because that has access to all my files, really. I have some stuff on my laptop, but a lot of things are in the cloud, and then other things, I can recreate it or something. So I don't think I would need my laptop as much as my phone would actually be better.
And don't forget that phone charger.
Yeah. Well, I try to build a solar charger for the phone, so then I have to rely on that, and I just harness the power of the sun.
So this is a theoretical, abstract question and abstract answer, then, I guess.
Maybe, but that'd be my solution in case I couldn't. If I had to sell the charger or something, then I just build my own.
Okay. And for everyone listening, please ponder the question yourself, and again, share with us what you're thinking. Facebook, Instagram, Twitter at WokeNFree. Now, since we've covered our personal share, you know what time it is. It's time to dive deep into this subject. So, again, we're talking about financial literacy and education. So, first question out of the gate, what does that mean?
I think financial literacy is just truly understanding your money and how you should be handling it. So, it's basically like money management and the skills necessary to organize your money and just have I guess you can have backup funds and sort of things like that. And then when you think about education, the financial education, it goes hand in hand with the financial literacy. To be literate, you have to be educated. So it's really about understanding the financial tools that are available to you and how to properly manage your money so that you're secure for future events and emergencies, things that pop up. I think if you're financially literate, then you can deal with like financial emergencies that can pop up. And then also that means that you're also set up for retirement. You have some sort of understanding of what your money will look like in the future. So I think that involves financial literacy.
Okay.
Money management and knowing the future.
Well, according to Investopedia, because you know us at WokeNFree, we love our resources. And of course, you can find this link to what I'm about to talk about on WokeNFree.com. Financial literacy actually is a very specific definition. It's the education and understanding of various financial areas. Specifically, the topic focuses on the ability to manage personal finance matters in an efficient manner, and it includes the knowledge of making appropriate decisions and personal finance, such as investing, insurance, real estate, paying for college, budgeting, retirement, and tax planning. And when I came across this definition, I was like, oh snap, most people are probably not necessarily as educated and enlightened across all of those subjects, right? Because I think that those are a lot of heavy hitters in our life. Knowing insurance, knowing real estate, how do we pay for college? I think a lot of people sometimes, and I definitely can at least speak from my own experience, we tend to be more reactionary, right? And I'm a planner as well, but I think that I definitely remember like paying for college was a far bigger conversation for me once I had to do it, but I wasn't necessarily spending as much time on that at 14, which probably would have been helpful because, right, then you only had 4 more years before you had to go off to school. And so that's that. And then technically financial education, as according to NEFE, link is on WokeNFree.com. It's referred to as the intervention in this research. So it covers a broad range of activities, something like information printed on a pamphlet to a workshop or extended course. So kind of like what you were saying, Khalil, it's about the actual education of how to be financially literate. But the two subjects or the two terminologies are actually distinctively different.
Yeah, and you can see that from those subjects that you mentioned, none of that's taught in high school in the U.S. That is not.
I mean, at least from our experience, right?
Yeah. Maybe. Maybe nowadays
some
they
charter
have more.
Schools or private schools might be kind of making a deeper effort. But yeah, I definitely don't remember covering investment rules.
And either way, it's not. It's not like a core curriculum that you have to take. It's not like mandated by the government in any way.
No, I mean, why when there's algebra and calculus to be taken? Because that's far more significant.
Yeah, it's interesting. It depends. Yeah, it depends on the career choice, but
I guess, yeah.
But finances should be definitely a core. I mean, that's crazy.
Money makes this world go round.
It's crazy that it's not when you think about it. That's just nuts. Mm-hmm. And talking about that, what are the actual current financial literacy stats in the U.S.?
Okay, so there's a lot to go through. All of the information available, again, WokeNFree.com. According to the NFCC, they shared this really interesting 2017 Consumer Financial Literacy Survey that was conducted online in the U.S. by the Harris Poll on behalf of NFCC and is sponsored by BECU. And there were several findings. So to break it down, first they talked a little bit about credit card debt on the rise. So and this is 2017 stats. So comparatively to 2016, there's significantly more U.S. adults indicate that their household carries credit card debt from month to month, 39% in 2017 as opposed to 35% in 2016. And with nearly 2 in 10 adults saying they roll over $2,500 or more in credit card debt each month, up from 2016, which was it was 16% in 2017 and 14% in 2016. So to summarize that, more people are carrying debt and they're not paying it off on a monthly basis, which means what? That you're paying interest on that debt. And overall, more people are carrying credit card debt, which isn't, I mean, again,
that's not surprising though. We
all know that. We all live in kind of a credit happy world. Another thing that the report goes into is Americans spending less, which is interesting. So reversing a trend that has been consistent since 2009, more U.S. adults are spending less than they were last year. So 26% in 2017, 23% in 2016, which is good. And I think that speaks to probably like certain parts of our population are more experiential in life. So they're not necessarily always focusing on buying, like millennials I'm referring to, aren't always focused on just buying things, but experiences. So that might attribute to why Americans on average are spending less.
But was that spending on actual products or was that spending on general? Meaning like if you buy a vacation package, that's an experience, but is that included in the American spending less? But or is it just certain products?
I think it's just
this product spending.
Well, remember,
I wonder what this
I think millennials are spending less in the sense of they are going to save their money and not buy every album and every book and probably buy more big ticket items. And then that means that overall they might technically spend more in totality, but they'll have less transactions, right? Because if you save your money, then you're not going to be buying. But again, that's just a theory, though. That's my own theory.
We'd have to see the study and know exactly what they meant by spending less.
But either way, that's an interesting stat. I did not expect to see that. When it came to saving and retirement pressure, a little over half of adults, 54%, say they are saving the same as they were in 2016, which is slightly down by 4 percentage points from 2016. Those who say they're saving more remains unchanged since between 2017 and 2016. And then additionally, more than 1 in 4 U.S. adults, which accounts for 27%, do not save any portion of their household annual income for retirement, which holds steady compared to 2016, which was at around 26%, so 1% differential. So pretty much that's just saying most people are not planning for the future, and that didn't surprise me.
The saving and retirement, it's just flat right now.
Yep. And then the last piece of the report talked about student loan repayment. And although the percentage who said they would not recommend student loans as a way to finance college education remains the same as last year, so 11% from 2017 to 2016, the percentage who said their student loan was a good investment actually increased since 2015 and 2016. So that's interesting. I think that I'd like to see what the stats, if they do this report again in 2018 or 2019, because I don't know. I mean, there are, like, from a law school perspective, I'll say there are less people going to law school now than there were like 10 years ago. So I don't know. I don't know. I'm not against people taking out loans for school. Obviously, it's a requirement for some households, but it's interesting to say that people pretty much thought it was a good investment, because I think that conversation is going to be changing over the next 5 to 10 years, I would say.
Oh. Yeah, I wonder how far along are they in their career to say that. Was that like after 10 years of like, yeah, you know what, that was a good idea? Or was that after like 1 year? I don't think that was after 1 year of being out of college and saying, I don't think you can know that fast. I mean, if you could, then you must be earning a hefty income. If you already know that you're getting a great return on your investment with like after a year of just out of college.
Yeah, I mean, personally, nice. I would say my investment in my college and grad school, it was a great personal investment, but from a financial perspective, I would have done things slightly different, because the amount of debt that you can rack up in law school or even in college is absurd in these current day times, but we digress.
Yeah, so I found a statistic from NFEC, and they actually gave like basically a financial IQ test. So the average results for all ages and groups of Americans who've taken this national financial capability test was 63.17%, which I think we'd call that a failing score, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Less than 65, yeah.
That's pretty bad. To me, that's saying that most Americans are just financially illiterate.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And another thing they brought up was that 46% of Americans have less than $10,000 saved for retirement. I don't know what country they can live. What country you can live in off of $10,000 US dollars for, but you're not doing that in America. You're not retiring on $10,000.
Which is why I think we see so many older people who are working out in retail environments. Yeah. You know, when they're like 70 or even 80, because if you only had $10,000 to retire, your behind is working because you don't have no money.
And Social Security is not your savior there. Sorry.
People try to take that away, so I would.
That is not your savior.
Got to think about this, guys. Yep. When it comes to being more financially literate, how do you think people should go about this?
Before going out there and learning, I think it's a good idea to keep a couple of things in mind. So I found this Investopedia article titled 3 Ways to Improve Financial Literacy. And it listed 3 things, but I really stuck to the 2 points that were mentioned in the article. So the first point was understand that everything changes. And it was saying that in regards to like the economy changes, the financial industry changes, and even your financial situation changes. You must be ready to adapt to these changes. Meaning you're always gotta like learn and
be a chameleon.
And be ready to adapt. You gotta have that ability. You can't just say, all right, I figure it out. how to save, and I'm just gonna stick to this plan, and it'll always be this way no matter what.
True.
And you got to be able to adapt for like emergency situations that come up, which might have to change your savings a little bit. So
True.
that's what I like that point. Their second point was never stop learning, of course. At various points in your life, you might need to learn how to decrease your credit card debt, or save for retirement, or to refinance your home. You have to find the right answers for the right time. The third point, I don't necessarily agree with it, because it doesn't. I mean, I think it's kind of messed up. It was saying that you should start learning financial literacy in college as opposed to high school. To me, I think financial literacy should be taught at a young age, and it shouldn't just be like an afterthought. Financial literacy, what is that?
Yeah,
I'll wait.
I think
why? How could you just put that off? I don't know. I think we're ready. You don't have to like dive deep into it, but you should at least be exposed to it as a child.
Yeah.
It's better to be ahead of the curve than to wake up with culture shock. And it's now like, figure out, how do I manage my money? What do I do with this?
While you're
I need to be
already
prepared for the future.
spending money in college, right? Yeah.
I don't know if I agree with that.
I respectfully disagree as well. I think that people, to get to college requires financial literacy. We just talked about that.
Yeah.
Paying for college is a part of financial literacy. So it's actually kind of donkey behind of trying to figure that out. Yeah, when you're ready there. According to a Forbes article that I came across, which again, WokeNFree.com, it breaks it down to be more financially literate. There are 5 simple steps that you should really dive into. So first, read as much as you can. So they say they advertise, or they suggest newspapers, magazines that are geared towards money matters. Also, the financial sections of your local regional newspapers are great resources, such as Wall Street Journal, The Barron's, Fortune, Forbes, Money.
Of course.
Forbes
mentions Forbes.
Listen. And then also they suggest understanding the cash flow quadrant. So if you read Rich Dad's Cash Flow Quadrant, Guide to Financial Freedom by Robert Kiyosaki, most people don't know there are 4 broader ways of making money: employment, self-employment, business, and investing. And it's kind of like a ladder. You can work your way up to being an investor, but you need resources and specialized knowledge to do well in that field. And then in the article, they say, as Warren Buffett said, a better business owner makes a better investor. So I think that I personally have never read this book by Robert Kiyosaki, so I definitely will be adding that to my book list to read. And the next point mentioned is use financial management tools, which is interesting. One way to gain financial literacy is to attach a finance management tool to your personal accounts. Sign up for services like Mint or other types of, tools that will help you manage your personal finance. And I think also provide that assessment, right? Because it's one thing to say be financially literate, but if you don't know how much you're spending on extra stuff, on your rent, on this, then how can you really learn to manage your money better? Yeah. Also, they advertise, ask for expert advice. I totally agree with that. If you're going to try to dive into something new, you might as well learn from someone who has a bit more experience maybe than you. So talking to an experienced advisor can help understand how to budget, how to save. I would probably also add they're probably either investment courses or coaches that probably can help advise in this arena as well. And then also, this was interesting. It said utilize your network to help you achieve your goals. So whether it's a podcast, go figure, a webinar, an ebook, or blog, there are thousands of educational resources that can really help you improve your personal finance. So I think that was super critical, and I definitely personally think we can take a couple of those points and add it to our regiment.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. These definitely are things that are important, so definitely will keep in mind. Mm-hmm. What are obstacles for becoming more financially literate?
So I think this is an interesting question, because I don't think there are too many people out here who would be like, financial literacy, who needs that? Right? Like, I feel like...
Not in that way.
I feel like most people are like, oh my God, I really need to get my beep together, right? Like, they need to...
Well, they understand it's a problem.
But but we leave it at that. We're like, oh my God, I feel so guilty.
It's a bad problem.
And then we're going to go have cake, right? Like, we're like...
Or go buy some more Jimmy Choo's.
Yes! Listen. You got to be fabulous ridiculous, guys. So, so how do we kind of break that bad cycle of like knowing we have a problem and then walking away with the problem still in hand and never being touched? For me, I think the answer becomes prioritization, right? So every day there's certain things that I'm going to do. I'm going to what? I'm going to have a gratitude list. I'm going to be thinking about things I'm grateful for. I'm definitely getting on social media. You know me. I'm definitely going to be eating and drinking and self-care methods and all that good stuff. And I'm going to be working on my business. I'm going to be working on networking. Absolutely, to add to this list, to have a daily practice of something is to really have the ability to fully engage yourself in that. So I think for me, I'm just going to need to add like reading something about money every day, right? I'm going to need to add maybe on a monthly basis, looking at my monthly budget. How did I do compared to what I did last month and how did I want to do? Maybe making sure that I sign up for at least one course addressing finance, whether it's online, whether it's in person, every quarter of the year. That's once every 3 months, right? Like we can do things like that. So I think for me, the biggest obstacle I personally have is not prioritizing financial literacy. So that's a commitment that I think that I can, make and stick to. But how about yourself?
Well, I don't know about myself, but I was just thinking, I think many people have the same issue you have with prioritization. Mm-hmm. They, at a young age, like we were saying before, they kind of just brush it off and say, I need to do it, but whatever, there's excuses. Maybe they don't have time for it. Mm-hmm. They could say things like, I can get a financial advisor and they'll handle my money. They'll take care of everything for me. True. There's other people that'll say like, hey, I could win the lotto and my financial troubles will go away. Lord,
how many people do we know say that?
Yeah. that's like the big thing.
Poor man's tax, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's like it's an afterthought in most people's minds. Even though it's important for us all, it's just... It's not really a priority. You say, it could happen, but it's not like something that has to happen. You can continue to live in a financially illiterate state. So that I think that's kind of the issue. Yeah. I think that's kind of the issue is that you can actually live and be financially illiterate. It's
until you're 80 with $10,000 in your bank account and you're like, oh crap.
Well, then you just suffer all the consequences, but you technically never learned and you were able to live. So that's kind of one of the problems with it is that people are able to continue life being illiterate.
Well, see, I think you just hit the nail on the head because it's not really living, it's existing, right? Because if you don't address it, like you said, at the tail end of this journey, you're going to feel it. So did you really live or did you just kind of exist? And then now you're going to pay the consequence.
Well, yeah, that's true. You'll definitely feel it and you'll wonder what happened. You might look back and have many regrets.
Word. Unnecessary.
Definitely.
But let's not be those people, guys, right? If we're listening, let's not be like, oh, they're so right, but we're gonna do nothing about it. No, like let's make a commitment today, right? Like let's do one thing today. It just takes, as I forget who said, it might have been Tony Robbins who said, if you do 1% change for 30 days, that's a 30% difference, right? It just takes one small act that is constant, like repeated, that becomes the bigger change in your life. So listening to this podcast, step number 1.
Yeah. Hopefully it lights a fire up under some people.
Yes. Okay. So what are things that we need to know about financial literacy before we, finish up this amazingly interesting and important conversation?
Well, we went over like lots of little parts about it. So, I guess just kind of sum it up is financial literacy, it teaches you how to manage your money. It'll help you be prepared for emergencies in the future. If somebody gets sick in your family and you have to take care of that, or you're unemployed, you have an emergency fund, things like that. And then also like having a retirement so that when you are 65 plus, you're not working in retail. You're at, you're at home living off your retirement money. You're doing some other things. Maybe you're doing charity work, but either way, you have time to yourself to not have to struggle going into a job, because now you're not in, your perfect days that you used to, the perfect health that you used to be. You're a little bit older, so you should be taking it a little bit differently than when you were younger. But no matter how you slice it, you should be educated about finances. Since money is the accepted way that we've all agreed to trade goods and services, I think it's nice to know how money works and what tools are available to successfully grow your wealth.
True facts you speak. Okay, so just to drop a little bit of knowledge for you guys, because it is WokeNFree. So according to a U.S. News article that you can find on WokeNFree.com, there's just a couple of leftover points to mention. Is this something that is just, unique to our multiple households or some households? The problem is dire and it's widespread. So if you feel like, you don't have anyone to talk to or no one else is experiencing this, they definitely are. A survey found that 18% of the American 15-year-olds surveyed could not answer basic financial questions or handle simple tasks like understanding an invoice. So that's really sad.
That's troubling.
And yeah, very troubling. Also, adding personal finance classes to school curriculums, like you mentioned, could help. I think a lot of these schools could tend to be a little bit rigid when it comes to changing up things and not wanting to be a little bit too out there. And I understand there are rules and regulations and laws that dictate how schools and school districts operate. But I think that if we as a culture want to make sure that our youth is properly prepared for the lives that they need to live, we need to incorporate financial literacy. And I think another couple of things that the article points to is parents need to help, right? So, just because you parent, you're sending your kid to college, you're like, they'll figure it out and they'll take care of me. Hold your horses. Everyone can be financially literate. This is not just something for the youth. Don't feel like if you're 40 or 45 or 55 that you can't turn things around. I think that a big part of the youth being financially literate helps when the parent is willing to have the conversation and be a part of the conversation. Also, the article suggests that money lessons can be fun, right? We all loved Monopoly, and that's a whole game about money and wealth management and
game of life.
Word, right? So I think that we need to, it's all about mindset, right? And so we have to think about money in a different way for it to be more engaging and to not feel like such a drag. And then also certain groups of people need special attention. So this is talking attention. Okay, so students with special needs like autism and parents themselves. Okay, so I think that's suggesting that there's certain households that are going to have more unique financial constraints or strains on them. So they're going to need to think about, what are additional costs, right? What are additional costs if you have a special needs child, if you have disabled people in your household, they might need more healthcare funding. They might, so you really want to think about how does your unique situation also apply to financial literacy and what are the extra planning points that you need?
All right, that's some good tips that people can actually take to heart. Mm-hmm. And on that note, it is scenario time. Scenario 1. Marlon is in his last year of high school, about to start college in a few months. He has no bills in his name and has never had a job before, so if he needs to buy things, he comes to you, one of his great parents. Marlon is going away for college soon and will need a way to buy incidentals. Is there any way you can prepare him for this new financial freedom, or are you doomed to lose money if he goes on a spending spree?
Oh, interesting question. So I will speak from my experience. At 18 years old, I got a phone, my first cell phone, which I've had ever since. If you know me, you know what my number is. And I thought that was a really helpful thing. I did that with my mom, and it not only allowed me to start building my name, like my credit history, it allowed me to be able to be eligible to apply for other things like credit cards and things like that. So I guess if I was Marlon's parent, I would say I'd probably get Marlon a phone like my mom did with me. And I would engage in, I would spend, if this is the summertime before he goes off to school, I would spend that summer every week making sure that we're going over understanding how do you make a budget? How do you parse out financing? Hey, Marlon, you might be cute, but maybe you need to get a job. Like, don't get it twisted.
right before going off to college, you get a job.
Well, he can think about getting a job in the summertime, or he can think about getting a job on campus and figuring out how he can get that extra coin. What I look like?
You look like a bank.
Nope, not today. Nope. So.
Oh, the bank's closed?
The bank is closed. You're 18 years old. Get it. Get your life. Get your life, Marlon. So
you're not just going to hand him a piece of plastic to do what he wants with it?
Not today. Nope.
But you can give him the plastic and hope for the best.
He can come to you and have that conversation. And now you're cheaper than me. So good luck with that, Marlon.
What, I'll give him a nickel.
Exactly.
You can make that nickel into 50 cents.
Okay. Okay. How would you answer it?
I would probably just give him a load of books that he has to read, some financial books. But it's time to read up on this stuff, because you going in with the empty head, and it's not gonna end up looking well if you don't find out how money works and find out some financial tips. So yeah, I'd give a reading list and then go do a summarization after he's read his books. Go over with them and say, hey, what did you learn? I guess I'd want to see if he could balance a checkbook, do some of the classic things, just to give him some exposure to finances before he's off. And then while he's at school, I'd probably still want to make sure he's still educating himself about finances and moving along, because I know the books, after a while, you might forget what happens in those, and what information that you learned in the books. So it'd be good to kind of just look at YouTube videos on financial things you can do and look into investing and stuff like that.
Smart. Okay.
Yeah, that's what I'd say. Scenario 2. Stella is a middle-aged woman who earns a comfortable income as the CEO for a commercial packaging company. Unfortunately, she never participated in her company's 401k or pension plans because she prefers the fancy things in life, like a Bentley Bentayga. Unfortunately, her company lost a big client and her salary just got cut into a quarter of what it was because she's actually out of a job. Should Stella take some financial literacy class, or should she just get a financial advisor to figure out how she can bolster her finances?
Okay. That's unfortunate. I know this scenario probably speaks to several thousand people in this country and probably, globally, who've been in the situation where they're living the life and then they're like, JK. That easy living street is now closed. I think that it's not and or, actually. I would say probably she should definitely figure out, she should do an assessment and figure out, okay, how much money can she live on, if she has any savings before, how long will it take her, how long can she live without getting another job, so that you have that understanding of your finance. And then also, it depends on the financial advisor. I mean, if she's been comfortable working with one in the past, they cost...
she hasn't worked with one or anything.
She's never worked with
one?
No,
she's just been spending her money. She hasn't been thinking about any
financial
of that.
advisors typically cost money to work with, because
wow.
all things in life, if it's good, right, it's gonna cost something. So I think that before jumping to the boat, before spending additional money, I think that there's a lot of free resources out there that she can take advantage of. And then if she feels like she's overwhelmed or not, or needing, again, that expert opinion, then take that invest in yourself and go forward with that. But first, there's things that she can do for free.
Yeah, I tell her to skip the financial advisor and do financial literacy classes, or look even at her local library and see what kind of things they're doing there, because sometimes they give presentations on some financial advice, and it's better just to get some free information. Don't go spending your money that you don't really have to waste. And then also, she could do kind of like what we did for our personal share in her beginning, and actually purge all those great items that she has. Maybe she can sell some of that Jimmy Choo's on eBay.
You're just really trying to give her
sweaters and
take her life to a whole nother level. But listen, I mean, the minimalist approach to life is more trending.
Yeah,
so
she can get a tiny home and get out of that mansion.
Oh no, the tiny home conversation. Yeah. We totally need to talk about that.
That can be another episode, definitely.
For sure. Okay.
Scenario 3. William loves to skydive. So much, in fact, that he dropped out of college to start vlogging about his jumps and showcasing his acrobatic prowess. He's earned a hefty following across a couple of social media platforms, and even has sponsors now. He recently thought, what should he do with all this money he's earning? He's always got birds on the brain, so isn't really interested in spending all that cash, but rather he'd want to do something smart with it. What should be the first thing he does?
Interesting question. I think this, again, applies to lots of people. We're in a golden age of entrepreneurship. I've said that before. We're also in an age of social media influencers who are kind of making big bucks, sharing and documenting their life. So what should they be doing with their money? This is interesting. So again, I think, there's always a question to a question.
Oh, boy.
It's going to depend on what William really intends for his life. So is he interested now in continuing on this path and not really? So you said he dropped out of college and he started vlogging. So yeah, so if is he looking to make this his way of living, and he's not looking for a traditional life? If so, then he's going to want to think about the non-traditional costs of this type of lifestyle, right? So typically if you go and get a job, you can get healthcare through like an employer plan and stuff like that, right? But if not, if you're independent and you're an entrepreneur, then you have to think about what independent options are available for your life insurance, for your health care, for your investment policies and programs. So he's going to want to think about that. He's also going to think about how he can monetize his business on a greater level, right? Does he want to start selling merchandise? Does he want to also do a book? Is he maybe interested in doing some tours? So it's all going to be, he's going to need to think about the bigger picture of his business and his lifestyle. And then he's also going to think about long term, what do you want to do in the next 5 years, the next 10 years?
Okay. So if I just think of the first thing that he needs to do, I think he needs to talk with the CPA and figure out what his tax burden is. Because
smart.
earning all that money, you don't know how much you have to actually
He
pay
might
back
have
to the government, right?
True.
You're not taking any money out of that. All that cash is going to you. So he doesn't want to get, bamboozled next year when this big bill comes and he's like, wait a minute, why? Where does this money come from? So I think that's what should be the first step, just to know that, because then he'll actually know how much of his money is actually his money.
Smart. I love it. All right. Well, it looks like we are at that time again. We spent all this time on our 25th episode of Woke and Free. Not quite in tune.
Oh no!
Talking about financial literacy. And I hope you were deeply enthralled and intrigued by what was shared and still awake out there. Because
hopefully.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. It is heavy, guys. I'm not going to lie. It's heavy. But I think it's all mindset, right? So this is important. This is something that has grave impact on your life. So it's absolutely worth the time and energy to talk about it. And we might revisit it at some point. So stay tuned. But for now, will I leave you hanging for what our next episode is going to be about?
On our next episode, we will be talking about Black Panther.
Wakanda forever!
Make sure to follow us on social media and follow along in the conversation. And make sure you tune in next week for Woke and Free Wednesday to join the conversation at WokeNFree.com.
If you want to be a guest on our show, please submit a topic for an upcoming episode or just talk to us about how you feel about what we've talked about so far on our Contact Us page at WokeNFree.com. And I've said it again, and I will say it a million times over. We're super active on social media. Please feel free to hit us up on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter at WokeNFree. Look out for upcoming posts that we have, some things that we'd love to engage with you on.
If you're not subscribed, please do share the episode and make sure you come back to join the conversation every Wednesday for Woke and Free Wednesdays. Till next time.